Hey, everybody. Welcome to Mental Health Matters. This is Tom Duff. I'm the Executive Director of St. Louis Counseling, also a licensed clinical social worker. I bill myself as therapist to the stars, but I'm really not. But still, it makes me sound more important, I guess. But we're here for Mental Health Matters with St. Louis Counseling. And if you are curious about our services, check us out at stlouiscounseling.org. And what we're going to be talking about today, you can find on our website, stlouiscounseling.org, and make sure you spell out Saint. But we're going to be talking about our college coaching program. We got that going earlier this year, and it's this combination of life coach, but also a counselor, a therapist as well too. And so it's this amazing kind of journey we're on, so to speak. And we're excited about the program. We're excited today to have Emily, one of our therapists, that's kind of running this college coaching program, and Clara as well too, who is one of our first students that's engaged in this college coaching program. So to both of you, welcome and thank you for being on with us today.
Thanks. It's great to be here.
Yeah. Emily, first, I do have a question, right? You're kind of a Cubs fan like me, aren't you?
Don't say anything.
My bad. But it's okay now.
You revealed it to Clara. I don't know.
Oh no. No. I was just kidding. I'm the Cubs fan. I'm the only Cub fan. So it's okay. Clara, you must be a Cardinal fan. But that which would make sense. You're here in St. Louis.
Yeah.
That's all right. I won't hold that against you. But Emily, so the reality is this college coaching program. So when you kind of first heard about that, you said like, hey, I'm interested. And once this gets going, I'm kind of interested. What have you found to be interesting about this so far?
Yeah, I loved it. When I first heard about it, I think that was back in January when you sort of rolled it out. And I've actually worked in higher ed in the past. So I was really curious how it would go. And I love working with the population of college students. So it's been really neat for myself transitioning from working in high schools to now working with college students and getting to see that transition. And I love seeing freshmen grow from being a little bit more dependent on families to becoming more independent and learning on their own, coming up with all these new study skills. So it's been really cool to witness that firsthand through this program.
Awesome. Yeah, and when we started this, the focus, was college freshmen. We wanted to bring the concept of, because freshman year is hard no matter what. I don't care. And of course, we're in COVID right now, so I'm sure it's even harder. But the reality was to kind of wrap around college freshmen and to support them in this new environment. And then we've also heard from upperclassmen now, and then even some high schoolers and some parents even saying like, hey, I'd like to be able to get this for my kid now. Can I start it now? Or am I too old? I'm a junior. Can I still use this? And our stance is like, okay, let's talk then. Let's figure out what you need. So Claire, let me ask you a question, right? When this was presented to you, because I knew Emily kind of threw it out there to you, why did it sound interesting, or did it not sound interesting at first? And you kind of got on board with it.
Convinced her.
Where did that come from?
So really, what happened was Emily said, "Hey, I'm doing this, and we can continue working together by doing this." So I really was like, well, that sounds interesting, and I'd like to continue working with Emily. So I really ended up doing it because I wanted to continue just working with Emily, and I knew I needed that little extra boost of help going into college.
That's a great way to describe that. A little boost, because that's kind of like what we were hoping for. That just extra layer of support and that boost. So Emily, in that regard, like that boost, how do you see that working? Like, what is that extra boost? Like, what do you feel that you're supporting not only Clara with, but others as well too?
Yeah, I think, like you said, it's just that extra support because freshman year is really tricky. There's so many factors going on, adjusting to living on your own, being away from family, harder classes, and then, throw in a global pandemic. So I think that just having a little bit extra support, someone who's a point person every week checking in with you, talking about how things are going, touching base about school stuff, but also everything else. So I've really seen it where some weeks we're talking about classes, we're talking about stress with virtual learning. Other weeks we're talking more about general stress and anxiety management techniques. It's really sort of spanned the gamut of, again, this process.
So, Clara, question for you. Like, okay, I'm sure as you were in high school, and I know the end of high school is probably different with COVID, but you probably had these thoughts of college, right? And what it'd be like, and then all of a sudden, COVID happened. I mean, have you? I'm like, what have you experienced that was different than what you were envisioning? And I guess what's that like on the college world now as a freshman with COVID?
So going into it, I was confident I was going to get into the dorms. And this was like a really big thing that happened. Because of COVID, my college decided that we were going to switch to one-person dorm rooms. So then we didn't have enough spaces until people just started to like postpone coming for the year. Other things have been, I was really excited for having in-person classes and getting to really get to know people. My college has a way that we get a personal study group that we really connect with those people, and we're in, I think it's 4 classes together. And you're like, the way that they hope is it's going to bridge a connection. But because of COVID, we haven't really gotten to meet in person very much. So going into this, I was really expecting more of like the general college experience that everyone always talks about, of just, you get to hang out with people, you get to stay in the dorm rooms, you get to hang out in the dorm rooms, you really get to communicate, you get to go to the library and study, when you can go to the cafeteria for food and all that stuff. And really it's there, but it's not there. Everything's social distanced. It's a lot.
Yeah, definitely. And kudos for you. I mean, we're probably almost done with the semester, right? I guess it's Thanksgiving week, isn't it? So kudos to you for making this work. Because that's got to be a challenge, and not to say that there are already challenges to just being a college student and being in that environment anyway, but let alone in this COVID pandemic world. What do you guys think are some challenges? Like, Emily, maybe you first. What are some challenges that college students face nowadays? That makes me sound old. I'm saying nowadays. My hair's a little gray.
Youngsters.
But it is different than when I went. And maybe even you, Emily. I don't know. It might be different. But what do you think are some of the challenges students face?
Yeah, I mean, I think Clara touched on this a little bit, that with all of this virtual learning and pandemic times, that feeling isolated is something that I've heard a lot. Is, I don't have this big group of friends I thought I'd have. It's harder to meet people. I'm doing classes from my dorm room, or, maybe I'm not even on campus. I'm doing classes from my parents' house when I thought I'd be in the dorm room. So, having to shift the mindset, having to deal with isolation, hearing a lot of those more related to COVID, on top of, financial aid stress, classes stress, sort of the normal, typical college issues, just really compounded with, I can't do my virtual lab because I have this going on. And it's a whole, Clara, you're one of the lucky few who have been weathering this storm and figuring this out. And, I think what is really cool is that the students that we're working with are so resilient, and I'm seeing across the line college students who are figuring out, how do I make this work? How do I know, Clara, you've done this too. Like, how do I grow friendships in unique ways? And how do I like build rapport with people and find my group, even though I can't sit in a restaurant or even a cafeteria to talk with them, but, trying to get creative.
I can remember, going to I had to go to the financial aid office way back when, right? So I took my horse over to the financial aid office, and I was able to get in line, and then I remember this panic hit me, like, wait a minute, I have to go tell them that this check is wrong and I need them to return it. And all this stuff I had to start doing for myself all of a sudden. And then I realized also so now I got to advocate for myself as well too. This person's telling me information that doesn't make sense, and I don't even know the words they're saying to me. So I just remember just that, I guess it was self-esteem, and I guess confidence as well too. But I don't know, Clara, from your perspective so there's all those different things you just have to deal with when you enter the college atmosphere. But do you feel there's other pressure? What pressures do you feel as well too, even outside of COVID? What are the just normal pressures you might feel just by being a college student?
Well, I work a lot. I work 2 different jobs right now, which is a normal college thing to happen, but that can be very pressurized. I recently had to tell my job that I will not work Sundays anymore because it was just too much. And Emily sat there while I just ranted for a while. I'm like, I don't know if this is a good decision. She sat there and listened to me and helped me make this decision by just listening. So basically having a little bit of extra support in all areas. She really is helpful.
Yeah, so listening. So that's probably a big part of it, right? Being a therapist, right, Emily, and then being someone who's also, Clara, just wants to get something off their chest. That's a huge part of counseling. So let me ask you this. This gets off into a little tangent, right? But how, Clara, when you think about, talking with somebody, right, and that listening part, how important is that? More important than getting the feedback from the person sometimes, just to know that person's listening? Is that a pretty big part of the whole process?
Yeah, it's really nice sometimes that I know that she'll listen to me. And usually whenever I am ranting, then she waits until I'm done before she gives me feedback, which is always a really nice thing to happen because that's really helpful to get it all out and then go back.
Awesome. And so, Emily, if you want to talk a little bit about that process, right, of if you're assisting with college coaching, if you're assisting as a therapist, a counselor, talk a little bit about what that process is. Why, when you, that perfect example there, you're giving feedback after she completely stops, and that listening aspect. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think, what I think is really cool with the coaching piece and just in therapy in general is working with clients. And once you have that rapport and Clara knows, I'm going to listen to what she has to say, I'm going to be here and we're going to talk through it. I'm non-judgmental. And then, a lot of times Clara sort of solves it herself, but we just sort of talk through it and she's like, oh, okay, this is what I wanted to do. And I knew this is what I wanted, but I needed someone else to bounce this off of who's not in this situation, who's kind of a third party person. And I think that's what's really cool of therapy is I'm not involved in the sense that I'm, not tied to anything, and I can give feedback in a way that's non-judgmental and just really supportive. And I think that's what's so cool about the coaching piece is that, we kind of go between the therapeutic aspect and processing and talking through, our emotions and processing that. But we also can talk about more minute things and study skills and talking about jobs, and doesn't have to be like strictly counseling as what people might see it as. It's kind of can do a little bit more since it's the coaching.
That's what I think is one of the cool aspects of the program, in that it's not just coaching, right? It can be counseling as well too, and they are two very different things on certain levels. But we know that the ebb and flow of all of us, we all have mental health, right? And it's always up and down depending on the stressors in our lives. And it's having that third party objective listener there that can, tie in some constructive feedback. And then it's that therapeutic relationship too, which you guys have both described. It's about listening and that mutual respect. And that's so cool to hear, because that's what, part of this podcast too is about trying to break down stigma. And that's why, Clara, I'm so thankful that you were willing to come on here and just say like, hey, it's helping me, and it doesn't get in the way, of my life as well too. Clara, what do you think is one of the, maybe favorite parts of this college coaching program so far, that since you've been doing it for a couple months now, like what do you think is probably one of the better parts of it for you?
Definitely knowing that Emily is there for me whenever I have any type of question about college life and about life in general, because like it's just very helpful to have, is knowing that there's someone in your corner no matter what.
That's awesome. And that's and Emily, for you kind of described what was some of the cool parts of that program. What do you think? Maybe talk a little bit more about the difference between the coaching part and then maybe the counseling side, or your because it's kind of two hats you wear at times, and you've lived both those hats from your career as well too. So talk about some of those differences.
I've done therapy. I do therapy. I've done coaching and other aspects with trauma coaching and things. So it does sort of go back and forth. And I would say some of our sessions with Clara and with my other clients are more, okay, you're talking about, it's been hard for you to focus this week. What's been going on more specifically? What are some study skills that we're working on this week? More of the academic side, kind of talking about that. And then some weeks are, this big emotional issue happened, or this big life event happened, and I really need to talk about it and I need to process it. And it's bringing up all this other stuff from high school and all of this. So it really kind of depends on the client, right? Like I meet them where they are and we talk through what they need to be talking through. Sometimes it feels more coaching in that we're both working together to solve a problem. We're both coming together, collaborating. And other times it does feel more on the therapy side of, building relaxation skills, of talking through emotional issues, things that are going on. Which I think when you're talking about breaking down stigma, I think this is a really cool program, because my hope is that, when we get more and more clients that they kind of recognize, okay, therapy isn't that scary. And, if we're not just, it's not just this scary thing where I go to an office and it's very intimidating. It can be really personal. And that's something I've really loved about being virtual, is that I'm inviting them into my home. They're inviting me into their home, which feels very different than meeting like in an office. We're kind of mutually kind of inviting each other in and processing that way. So yeah, that was kind of a roundabout way to answer your question. But.
The beauty of a podcast, right? Yeah. Clara, what do you, from a virtual standpoint, because, as we were very much as an agency, very in person with our sessions before COVID. And then since COVID, we've grown, and we're very excited about how we've grown in the sense of hey, we're virtual. How does that virtual side work for you? And just you're probably busy life as well too. But how does that work for you? Do you like it? Do you? Mm,
I really like it, and I've had to use the virtual side of it because of I went across campus to go get food, and then on my way back, the fire alarm was going off in our building, and I had like 5 minutes until the session. So I was like, all right, I guess I have to do this session in my car. So
I think that maybe is one of the unique places with virtual therapy is team therapy.
Yeah, anywhere.
Yeah, yeah. Due to a fire alarm, I will now do my session in my car. Hey, that's being resilient there again. Like,
that's like the flexibility of virtual services is you can be wherever.
Yeah, and college students, life is very busy. I look back and I'm like, man, I was busy, even though I had some free time here and there. But so Clara, in your sense, going from high school to now college. Is there a big difference with stress level, or the same, or what might it be for you?
Well, it's a different type of stress because I did almost every activity under the sun in high school, and I'm switching to college where I don't do as much. So in that sense, I have more freedom, but at the same time, now I'm working more often. So I'm still, stress levels are high because I'm still doing stuff, but I'm not as spread thin as I was. It's always like that.
That's a good point. Yeah. Yeah. Different types of stress too. And we still feel it, but then it's just different on certain levels. Like high school stress, maybe with being involved in all those activities, that might have been kind of fun on some levels. And then work is work sometimes, especially two jobs. So yeah. Now, Emily, you mentioned the word resiliency earlier. How would you characterize resiliency? Because it's a hard term to describe. But how would you, as someone in the field, kind of describe what resiliency is?
Yeah, I think resiliency to me is has a lot to do with hope. That knowing we're going to go through things in life, we're going to face challenges, but continuing to get up and pick yourself up and brush yourself off and hope that things will get through and hope that things will get better. And I think that we all have been having lessons of resiliency since March. Okay, what are we going to do with next? How are we going to get through this? And honestly, I think that's been the coolest thing to watch, having some seniors that I'm now working with who are college freshmen and the other college students that I'm working with seeing, okay, yeah, I'm virtual. I'm going to roll with this. I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to make it work for me. And I'm going to enjoy my freshman year of college, even though it's not typical and it's not what people are used to. And I think that's the definition of resiliency. Is just facing these challenges and continuing to go and honestly growing from that and building from your experiences. And I don't know, I really think that the seniors who graduated last year, I hope that when they graduate college, they get like some special resiliency pandemic survivor award or something, because they are, they face so much and with so much grace and dignity and creativity. It's really cool to have been witness to that and to help guide them through that process.
And it sounds like she is kind of describing you, Clara, from what you've said so far today. So a lot of resiliency. So kudos to you with that as well too. So Clara, question for you: what would you say to someone who's maybe thinking about doing this college coaching program with us and Emily? And they're kind of like, oh, I'm not for sure if I want to or not. What would you say to them?
Well, I would ask them, what part of it interests you? And then ask them, why wouldn't that what's the harm in trying? Mm-hmm. There's really no problem with trying it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. That's true. And sometimes it's as simple as that. that there's no harm in trying it, because definitely counseling is not going to, sometimes counseling can be hard, and sometimes the college coaching program can be hard. But it's ultimately makes you, I think, a better individual overall. And Emily, for you, what would you say to someone who's kind of on the fence about it? Should I do it or should I not do it? What would be your pitch in that sense?
Yeah, I mean, kind of what Clara said. I'd say, never hurts to try something new. And I know personally, like from back in my day when I was in school, that I would have loved to have a college coach. So maybe drawing on my experience of, if it's something you're thinking about because you would like a little extra support, or like we said, a little extra boost, this is a beautiful way to get that. And it's having someone check in with you and just give you a little bit of help while you're transitioning. And, try it. You'll like it.
I like that. Clara, I never really even asked you earlier, what kind of career path are you looking at going towards? Now, I know when I was a freshman, I was going to be a history teacher and a coach, and I did not end
I
up
was
going down that road.
pre-med.
Pre-med. I got a pre-med over here. What about you right now? What's your path? What are you thinking?
I am shooting for becoming a theater teacher, but I'm taking the path of English teacher to theater teacher.
Oh, smart. Looks like you've done some planning with that. So in a few years from now, if there's any listeners out there that are looking to hire Emily in a few more years for that English teacher / theater.
Clara, not me.
What? Oh, I gotta say Emily.
I would not be a good theater teacher.
Not Emily. No, Emily's not going anywhere. But Clara will be ready to roll in a few more years. I mean, you could get going too, Emily. I mean, anything's possible, right? If you wanted to, but I don't think you should go down that road.
I'll leave that to Clara. I've seen her; she's amazing at theater, and I'm excited to see how her career path lines out.
Oh, excellent. So yeah, definitely. So and we want to make sure. So like I said, if anyone's out there listening, keep her in mind as we go. And we will definitely continue to support you even after your freshman year, if so you want it that way. That is up to you. But yeah, bottom line is we heard some really great things today on the podcast. And I love the very beginning of it. It's about that boost, right? It's an extra boost. This college coaching program that we've got going here at St. Louis Counseling is to give college students a boost. What I love about it is we can help you on the coaching side, and then as well as the counseling side. Our program is staffed with trained individuals, licensed clinical social workers such as Emily, as well as on the coaching side as well too. And then fortunately we get to work with people like Clara that are making some amazing strides in stressful times of COVID, and which will only make you so much stronger as we go into the future. So Clara, thank you for participating with us today. Much appreciation. And Emily, of course, always thankful for you and the amazing work that you do on a daily basis with the people we serve here at St. Louis Counseling. So until next time, this is Tom Duff, and Mental Health Matters.